Good morning, everyone. I hope we're going to give a really good start to today and to all the master classes today. I prepared something rather different for you guys. I think it will be very helpful. So let's test this out. Okay. Okay, perfect. So there's a little noise. Am I the only one that hears this? Like a background noise? Is that fine? Okay, I'm the only one who hears it. Okay, so I'm Catalin, Matei. This is Romanian name. I'm usually from Romania, Europe. I have a social media marketing agency that I founded when I was 15 years old, and we have a headquarters in Bucharest, Romania, and one office in San Francisco. I'm 22 now. Fast forward 6 years. I won't go into the story of how that started and how everything went. We've spent, I think, 20-some million dollars in advertising and learned a lot. And I think there's, and we've been working from like startups that have no money to big companies that don't want any ROI, so the whole spectrum of things. So we kind of learned the whole, the way that you can actually create results in a meaningful way in social. And we started when it was easy, really, you could do anything and it would work. Right? Like if you were doing Facebook in 2000, who was doing like Facebook, well, Instagram now, but Facebook in like 2013 or 14. Okay, so you could do really anything, right? In 2013 it would work. Right now, because there's all this competition and everybody's really doing it, it gets harder and harder to actually succeed. Let me see. Okay, so the title of the talk is Process Over Ideas. And it's not the most exciting tactical conversation that we're going to have, but it's something that if you take it and it's actually useful to you, you can integrate it into your marketing process, into your marketing activities, it will work. So a little bit about me. Like I said, started my agency when I was 15 years old. Now I'm 22. We have an agency of about 30 people. We're really combining data science and machine learning. I don't like the word AI. I think it's just a buzzword. It's really machine learning, what we're doing, and combining that with services, and we're serving clients. Our goal for us is really to get to a point where we can really create efficiency at scale for companies. So we don't want to be like the 50,000 a month agency. We want to have some sort of SaaS solution that companies can use and they can get results without us. That's kind of my goal. Now, what I want you to do is go to this link and open it up right now. It's slido.com and enter code DigiMark on And I'm going to have, what I want to do is really have my talk for like 30 minutes max. I think I have 50 minutes or 45 minutes. Okay. What's it say?
Stop moving the microphone, it's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, I want to do the session for like 30 minutes, and then while I'm talking, or at the end, we're going to do a Q&A session. I'd love to answer some of your guys' questions, actually, like specific things that you guys are working on, that you guys are trying to figure out, that you're having trouble with, specific challenges and so on. I think that would be much more beneficial than speaking the whole time. So while I'm talking, you can type in questions there. You can also vote each other's questions. It's kind of fun. And at the end, we're going to take, well, where's my phone? I think my phone is there. But I'm going to go get it, and I'm going to take 5, 10, 20 questions, however many we can. So we're going to do that. Did you guys got it? Okay? Slido.com, DigiMark on East. Okay? Got it? Good. So a little bit about the state of social media. You also guys heard Rand talk yesterday about state of social media, and I do agree with a lot of things that he said, generally speaking. Thank you so much. I do agree that with a lot of the things that he said about social media and how it's getting harder and harder and everything else. Now, I don't think it's a black and white situation. It's not like you need to stop doing social media and start doing what he's doing. I think it's for most people, it's not a choice to stop doing everything and just do email and influence. And well, the solution that he has is not ready, but when he's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. But I don't think it's a black and white situation in which you stop doing everything else and you just do one or two things. So we can see that digital is going to be growing faster and faster. And I think last year, 2018, was the first time ever when digital spend surpassed TV. So almost everybody knows that. Now that's a big, big shift because nobody thought that would happen in 2010. Nobody would estimate that. Okay, this is a projection for 2021, and By the way, I'm going to give you guys a link at the end to get the slides, so you're fine with that. Digital surpassing traditional soon as an overall. Now, if you look at the breakdown, this is also important. It's barely scratching TV, about $10 billion. And what's important is that out of that you see mobile, 70 billion, search, 47 billion, and if you looked, and where is it? Social, 30 billion. Now if you looked at the graph that Rand had yesterday with the clicks, amount of clicks that people sent, these social and search sent to your destination websites, search had 10 times more. You guys remember that? Now the reason that is because Google is an intent-based platform. The whole purpose of it is actually for you to make you click. Well, the only case when that doesn't happen is when you have like a Wikipedia link or some of those cases that he talked about. Now the costs, especially in the last 2.5 years, have grown from 26 cents per click to almost $1.71. Now what this means is if you're doing the exact same thing like 2.5 years ago, you would have roughly 6 times the cost increase with the same result that you're getting. Now, what can be done about that, really? The way that these platforms work, and I know this might be simplistic for some, but I think it's very important in the way I think about it, is these platforms are supply and demand platforms. The supply for them is the actual amount of impressions they have available. So the amount of people that they have on their platforms, the more they can make them stick to their platforms, have more impressions, the more they have the supply. Now the demand is the amount of content that's created and the amount of ads, aka ad spend, that's being spent to get those impressions in a simplistic way. So the more you have ad spend being spent on the same impressions, the higher the cost, obviously. So it's a supply and demand platform. Now, this is also a really cool chart. Let me show you something. If you look at, for example, 2014, if you would do social media, if you just do it, whatever the quality of that might have been, you would have success. So this is like when the time people started to realize that this is a good investment and started to spend in it. The top companies, the Fortune 500 companies, were not spending at this time at all because they thought it was not a wise thing to do for them. Then in 2015-16, people started to optimize to get better results and so on. 2017, this is when people started really do it, right? This is when companies started to spend a lot of money. This is where all that VC money that's going into startups start to go into, I think 40% of all the VC money that's being raised is going directly to Facebook, Google, and Amazon. So imagine, I think 80 billion for last year only for US, not quite sure on that number. 40% of that went directly to Facebook, Google, and Amazon. So who's really winning in that situation? It's really Facebook, Google, and Amazon. It's not the companies that are making money. And they are trying to make money at least. Okay, so 2018 and going forward, especially when you're looking at the platforms that are well known, a split starts to happen. So you have these high performing brands, and by the way, this is confusing. So what's down is profitability and what's up is unprofitable, just because of the way the chart works, okay? So forgive me if you're a CFO. Right now, you're going to have the high-performing brands that are going to have a good business, operational excellence. They have enough of a lifetime value of a customer, and they can spend enough even to make up the difference of 6 times higher costs in the last 2 years and growing. At the above level, on the performing brands and average performing brands. Now, how many of you guys are in the kind of like a startup under 30, 40 employees? Okay. Okay, so only like a couple of people. How many of you guys are in like Fortune 500 companies, thousands of employees, hundreds, and so on? Okay, what about the rest? What?
Trying to get there.
Okay, so who's like, okay, who's not spending on social right now? Okay, perfect. Okay, what? Okay, you're the only ones actually. It's pretty funny. if nobody would have been spending, this would have been like a complete waste of time. Okay, so this is useful for you guys as well, don't worry. Okay, so what's the solution? I think there's two core solutions that we have. One is you can be better. So you can take what you're doing, you can take because if you look at the supply and demand curve, the costs are 6 times higher. So in a simplistic way, because this is not exactly how it works, you could be 6 times better in your targeting, in your creative, in your relevance score, in the way your pages are optimized, and so on. And those are tactics. So that's one way, right? You can cut the tree in this way and not with like the traditional way. The other way is you could be different. And this is kind of funny. You could be different. So how are you different really? This is what like people like Gary Vaynerchuk and other people talk about when they're talking about underpriced attention. So whenever you have new platforms, what the definition of underpriced attention, what that really is the supply and the demand of the platform allows for anybody that's spending on that platform or creating content to have a disproportionate amount of results compared to what they would normally get in a mature, saturated platform like Facebook. Instagram is not really saturated, but it's getting there. And Google and YouTube and so on, okay? So you could be different. You could be going on all these other platforms like Reddit, podcasting. Podcasting is huge, by the way, for B2B. If you guys are in, how many people are in B2B? Okay, so for you guys, I mean, podcasting I think is the greatest thing that you guys can do. Mainly because you can use the podcasting as a business development tool. You can get those people on your show. You can start developing those relationships with those key decision makers. And you're giving value because you're promoting them. It's unbelievable. Even if you have like 100 downloads per episode, that will turn into sales. Okay, so you can do all these other things like TikTok, LinkedIn, great for B2B, amazing. And it has a really good supply and demand curve right now. We have this formula that we've developed to kind of like determine the opportunities at each and every point, but that's way too sophisticated for like a slide. But really, from the analysis we did, LinkedIn right now, if you're in B2B, has an incredible supply and demand curve. Like if you put out video right now on LinkedIn, you will win. It's almost like it's a joke. Like you put up a video and doesn't even make sense and it works. And you get so much reach. And if you use those, so 2 simple things for LinkedIn, if it's useful to you guys. Use those like hashtags, like broad hashtags. They work for some reason. And use video. If you do those 2 things, it will work. Okay, so B2B, you guys should be fine with LinkedIn and podcasting for like the next 2 years. But in any case, you can try all these other platforms. So that's how you are different. You go into new platforms, you experiment with them, you find better ways to do things that nobody else is doing or less people are doing compared to the mature platforms, okay? Next. The other way the other thing you could do is you could be better by adding process. So what I'm gonna do, and I have this, I couldn't update the slides, so I have some additional notes I want to show you guys. Let me see. Okay, so how can you be better? If you think of it in a like a high level way, when the cost of decision is low, the ideas really don't matter. What matters is you implement more of them and faster. Does that make sense? That's why I'm not going to give you guys like 29 gimmicks and tactics today. I'm going to try to give you an overall system and process and list of steps that you guys can take and then add any ideas into them. Because ideas you can take from anywhere, but the problem is what do you do with them? How do you measure them? How do you know they're working? What do you do after that? There's a lot of that going on. So if the cost of decision is low, and the cost of decisions of action on social media is very low. You can put up an ad, you can duplicate it, the cost is 0. Depends on your creative and what you're doing, but the cost is almost always 0. Then what happens is with time, good processes, whatever the ideas might be, it will lead to good outcomes, okay? And a systematic approach is much better for long-term strategy, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Jeff Bezos, wait a second. Okay. So here's a little cool story. The Japanese had this train. I don't know exactly the year, I think it was 2010. They had this bullet train with a weird name, I don't know the name. And they were having a challenge with it. It was very fast, it was going over 200 miles an hour, so that was not the speed. That was not the problem. They had the speed figured out. But whenever it went out of the tunnel, it made a sonic boom, and the houses that were living besides were having a lot of trouble sleeping and so on. So they were wrestling with this problem, and they couldn't figure out for like a year. And the way they figured it out is they got this expert in biomimicry. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, so what biomimicry is you look at nature and you try to reverse engineer the solutions for what you're doing. Because theoretically, nature had like 3 billion years to figure it out. So you can take the solution from it, right? So they looked at this bird called I think it was the kingfisher was the name, that had this way of catching fish by going in the water and not making a splash. So they reverse engineered that, and now the train didn't make a sound when he went out of the tunnel. Now, if you look at this, and if you look at the way evolution works, generally speaking, because our marketing departments and our companies are an evolutionary organism, if you think of it. They need to adapt to the marketplace with products and services and messages and so on. Then, I think it was this quote from Charles Darwin, that it's not the strongest or the smartest that survive, it's the most adaptable. Okay, so what does that mean? There's this thing, and bear with the biology lesson, I don't want to bore you through that, but I think it's important. So there's this thing called evolutionary mismatch, where we are evolutionary beings, so we have an environment, let's say we're in the savannah, and food, sugar sources are very scarce, okay? So we rarely find honey, and when we find honey, you eat the whole thing because it's gonna be like 2 more months till you find more honey. So what happens? We have an environment, sugar is scarce, we develop a behavior, which is eat the whole thing, because it's very rare, and now we change the environment, we have Walmart, and then we go to Walmart, and there's like 25 Snickers, and you eat the whole thing, right? So you have the same behavior, but the environment has changed. So this is called an evolutionary mismatch. Now, if you look at our companies and the way they're run, and if you look at our environment, it's changing and evolving very, very fast. That was actually the introduction, right? So it's evolving very, very fast. But how are we evolving? We're not. We're going very slow. So what's the evolutionary mismatch is our inability to adapt to change. So at a high level, what I would like you guys to think about in your organizations, agencies, if you're a client, if you are in a marketing department, whatever that might be that you're doing, a startup and so on, how can you develop a marketing process or organism, if you might call it that way, that can adapt to the environment at the same speed, or at least close following it, that it's evolving, right? And that's a challenge. And we can see the evolutionary mismatch that the technology is evolving, like AI and robotics and VR and all these things, and we're still doing manual work. Like, oh, change the budget here. Oh, that's this. You see how that's a big change? That's a big difference? There's no way you can keep up with those behaviors. Okay, so, biology lesson done. Where is it? Oh, here. Okay, also Jeff Bezos, here's a quote. He basically says that conventional wisdom is almost always right. And there's like a 10% chance that conventional wisdom is wrong. So, given a 10% chance, so let me read it. Oversized returns, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so what he's saying is, normally in life, the way we're trained, there's no way we're gonna find an extraordinary result from anything. But in business, if you hit something right, and you get a really good outcome, that's 1,000, that's 100x your input, your effort. That normally doesn't happen. So the way that we're trained, our mind works, is to lower risk and to not go outside of our comfort zones. Now the challenge with that is all the money is in that 10% of conventional wisdom that can create 100x, 1,000x. Does that make sense? Because you see, for example, Dollar Shave Club, do you guys know Dollar Shave Club? And what do they really have? One ad. And they were bought for $1 billion. That's a good deal to me. I don't know, I don't know you guys. Okay, so it's worth it to invest in experimentation rather than trying to have the best ideas or to have it figured out. Really important. Does it make sense? Okay. What's the solution? Okay. So this guy, his name is Francis Bacon. And he invented something that's called a scientific method. And again, I hope you guys are not going to go to sleep, but this is important. So he figured out a way to take observation, aka the environment, and to find ways to map that in ways that we can understand. Now, what we did, and I've spent a lot of time, I lost a lot of hair, even though I have a lot, trying to see how we can take this, and you guys can already the slides, how we can take this and actually develop a similar way for marketing, okay? So, okay, this is not, like the actual thing is like a 50-page methodology, and the actual thing would require like a data scientist to really make it very accurate, but most people don't need a completely 100% accurate, 99% accuracy. They need a roughly good process to work with. So that's what I'm going to give you in these 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, 10:22, this is good. Okay, so this is roughly the process that we do right now. And I'm gonna walk you through the steps. First step is discovery. And the way that you can visualize this is this way. Are you guys familiar with Ray Dalio principles? Okay, so he did this book in which he basically put out his principles, his way of behaving with the world, and he has a similar process because they're all really based on the scientific method. Okay, so discovery, strategy, implementation, analysis, and then you adapt and start again. Now, the way that works is you start by discovering, and this makes sense. Probably most of you guys are doing this in some way or another, conscious or subconscious. You understand what's your point A, where you're at right now, what's your point B, where you want to go, what's the gap, $100,000 in sales, $1 million, $1 billion, whatever that might be, and then you go to strategy and you try to map out what will be the steps that would take you from point A to point B. You implement the first step or the first milestone, and then after you implement it, you look back at the steps and you see, did that get me closer to where I want to go? Yes or no? If no, why? Then after you've made that conclusion, and you take those conclusions, you see, how can I adjust my point B? Is it still where I want to go? How can I adjust my strategy? Is that still something that will take me there? And then you go at it again, okay? So, does that make sense? Okay, so there's, this is useful for the slide that you're going to have. There's like a couple of documents that you need in order to make this work and to actually be able to track all these things. So there's a lot of documents that you have. Basically, there's like a document with the things that you learn that are good, that are working for your specific situation. There's a document with the things that you learn that don't work, so you want to avoid those things in your specific situation. Because these are situation specific, really. There's nothing like, that's why I avoid all these blog posts. It's like, the 10 things you need to do. No, probably not. Because everything is so situation specific and client specific and budget specific and product specific. It's really complicated to put out some exact rules for everybody to follow. Okay, so these are some documents. Okay, I explained the discovery. You need to understand where you are and where you're going. So this is the place where you create the customer profiles, the brand messagings, where you gather them. You create the customer journeys, product details, marketing strategy, whatever the client has, whatever you need to build for yourself, whatever your situation might be. The client journey will look something like this. And are you guys familiar with this? Say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the core of everything that you guys should be doing, really, in your marketing. Okay. And I like this phrase: unaware, problem-aware, solution-aware, product-aware, most-aware, purchase loyalty. What happens is the core differentiation between search platforms, intent-based platforms, and social media, contextual platforms, is social media takes people from unaware to maybe solution-aware very well. And that's the job that Google will probably be less inclined to do efficiently. That's why Facebook will have more capacity to have 100 billion in revenue, 200 billion in revenue, because people don't need to type in something for them to show an ad. They could just show an ad based on past behavior and so on. So The goal of all of your social media content and ads is to have the right audiences and the right content to take people from the current step that they are in to the next one. And this is where, for a lot of you guys that have data and systems, it pays off to have these personalized journeys for people, to segment things to the core fundamentals, to be like, the people that bought for us 3 products and have a birthday coming up in the next 7 days and are married with 3 kids are going to get this ad. Like that type of segmentation, it pays off to do that. We did that like Cambridge Analytica style in terms of volume of ads, not the ethical stuff. And we had, I think, 9,000 ads for 2 products with variations for, and this is like my stomach hurts when I'm saying it. This takes time. This takes time. And you change the words based on what resonates with a mother versus a father. You change the words based on what works with somebody living in New York versus Los Angeles. You change the creative. You change the destination URL. You make personalized landing pages, all these things. And we've seen an overall 40 to 50% increase in performance in actual return on investment or ROI or lower CPA with doing this. So if you're investing $100,000, you will get 50% more results by doing something more personalized. And the more you can do it, the better. I know it's, the agencies out here, I'll feel you guys pain because it's really complicated to do, but it's worth it. Okay, this is another customer journey that you guys have with touch points, problems, what they're feeling and thinking, experience and data. This is all important as well. Okay, next step, strategy. This is where it's important to understand clearly how this works. So you have some goals, okay? You have some goals and KPIs that you're trying to do. Then what you want to do is you want to go out and you want to come up with hypotheses. Now, the hypotheses and theories, the way this works is a hypothesis. It's a statement that has not been proven yet. And if you get this filter and if you get this talk, and it actually makes sense to you, at the end of this, you're not going to be able to tolerate that much talk from like blog posts and experts and things like that. Because they just say, oh, I did this thing, I did 3 posts and this worked. That's not statistically relevant. There's no way that could work for me. You're just speaking, that's a hypothesis. You're just putting out your opinion. Because very few things are actually proven in the marketing world. And people like it that way for some reason. Okay, so you choose your goals and define your KPIs, and I'm going to give you guys an example. You come up with ideas of hypotheses. So this is where you have your brainstorms. It's like, oh, let's do this, let's do this. Let's have this ad, let's send people here, let's do a landing page, let's make this video, whatever that might be. And I'm going to give you guys an example of how you create the hypothesis, like how you structure it as a statement. Then you filter them. You filter them by priority, by impact, by effort, by the resources you have available, and by their alignment with the goal, okay? So you're gonna say, we have all these ideas and we're gonna filter them, which are the ones that can get us to our goal, which are the ones that we can't do, which are the ones that are high priority, and you choose those first. And this is fairly done in the product marketing, like the product management world. Like if you get a product manager and if you show them this, like, yeah, we've been doing that for like 20 years. But marketers don't do it for some reason. Okay, you create a hypothesis statements, and then you create a plan. Okay, decide on best practice and experimentation mix. Okay, we're gonna get to that. Okay, an example, simple example is, I wanna increase sales by $100,000 in Q4 by what I'm doing. And a KPI for that is CPA, cost per acquisition, $50. Average order value per customer is $500, and new customers, the volume of the customers is 200. So you know when you're experimenting with stuff, you put out a plan, you put up a strategy, you implement it, and then you know when you get $200 CPA, that's not in the direction you want to go. You know when you're getting $100 AOV, average order value, that's not the direction you want to go. So I see a lot of people, they're not doing this up front, and they screw themselves up by the numbers. Because if you just project the CPC that you have, the cost per acquisition that you want, the actual metrics that you want to follow, if you project that up front with your budget, you're going to see that $20,000 is not going to make sense. You're going to see that 5 videos is not going to make sense. And there's only no way you're going to get those results. So this is really good to do. Okay, then you create hypotheses. And the way you do this really is you look at your data, you look at your backlog of ideas, and you look at other sources like brainstorms and things like that. You have the potential hypotheses that you like, then you filter them. Priority, resources, goal alignment, etc. And then you structure them. And the way you structure them, this is like the simplest way to do it, is if I do this to target audience, with that there might be some other specific details, or if I do this on my website, or if I do this, whatever, then this will happen. That's the way you should do it. And let me give you an example. No, let me give, okay, this one. If the first 5 seconds of the video will be attention grabbing, which is a variable of the creative, and I'm going to show you in a second what that means, then the percent of people that will watch the video for more than 10 seconds will increase by 50%. Okay. And this is like all that, for example, we had a speaker from NBC yesterday, if I remember correctly. Okay, so they're doing that very well. The BuzzFeed, like all these people, they're experimenting with these things heavily. If we cap the frequency of our ads to 3, which is an optimization variable, then negative feedback will decrease by 50%. And you can measure these things. So these are hypotheses. And this is the potential hypotheses that you could have, like the categories that you could put them in. Okay? Are you guys still alive? Okay, we're going to be finished in a second. I want to take your questions. Good. So at the micro level, you have the channel that you're in. So you have this idea of, oh, let's experiment podcasting. That's a channel hypothesis. If we do podcasting, we're going to get 3 clients a quarter. Okay, that's a channel hypothesis. Good enough. Ad level, creative. If we do this message to this audience, this is going to happen. This is what's going to happen. So you have all these categories: message, alignment with the platform's context. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. Format, video, text, article, the length of the video, the length of the text of the creative, and so on. Then at the ad set level, we have audiences, the targeting, the optimization that you're doing, and so on. And at the ad set level, again, the budget and schedule. Also at the macro level, you could be like, if people are getting their salaries on the 1st or on the 15th, we're going to have an increase of sales if we do a campaign then. Okay, that's kind of a macro level statement. It's not really a specific, it doesn't have anything to do with your ads. If this campaign is going on, people are going to buy more whiskey because they're unhappy about the presidential campaigns or something, like whatever. Social variables, events, holidays, legal, stuff like that. So these are the potential categories for your hypotheses so you can categorize them, okay? Okay, after you get your hypotheses, you filter them, you're going to decide on the risk allocation. And this is where things can go wrong. If you're having good results with your campaigns and marketing efforts, you will not be able to experiment 100% high risk, high reward with everything that you're doing. That doesn't make sense, right? So what you want to do is, and I have a formula for this, but I'm not sure how it could be useful to you guys right now to like actually define how close are you to your goals and define the gap and everything. But roughly speaking, you want to see how close are we to our goals and choose an experimentation budget out of that. And anything else is things that you know will work, that are safe. And then as you get results, you're going to do more experiments because you can afford it, because they have a higher chance of bigger results, of 10x results, 20x results. And you're going to do less and less of the things that are safe. But you want to start with something that you're comfortable with. 10% experimentation budget, 20% experimentation budget, right? So these experiments are these hypotheses and so on. Okay, composed of blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the product that you create is your best practices from the past, what you know has worked, and new experiments. Okay. Next step, execution. You just do it. That's it. Okay, the analysis. And this is, again, it's a mental framework. You gather, so we've discovery, strategy, we've executed, now we've after the next milestone, and we're looking at our data, we want to see what happened. We want to decide if it worked well, if whatever we need to change, what have we learned, and so on. So first step is you need to gather your data. You need to get your data analytics, your CRM, your data points, BI, whatever it is you're using, get it on an old place. And this, for some companies, is like a 1-week task, which again, is if it takes you 1 week to gather the data, you're already behind. That's not a good organism of adaptation to the environment. And for some people, it takes a month. For how many of you it takes more than 2 weeks to gather the data that you need in one place? Okay, for how many people it takes a day? For how many people it takes? Where are you guys in between? More than a month? What's going on there? With like more than
Problems with analytics.
What?
Problems with analytics.
Okay. Is that an agency that is managing?
No, we have an internal analytics department, but they are always having issues trying to get the final results for us. So it takes us literally probably up to about a month and a half before we actually see any results in the half.
Wow, and that's an employee?
That's the department.
The current employee? The current
Yeah.
employee.
I don't run the company, so.
Okay, you can make a suggestion. You could be like, I don't know, but this guy, Josh is not doing a good job. Okay, you could be like, in the report, you could be like, I don't know. Josh has not brought me the data. Okay, good. So you gather the data that you have. Okay, I made a mistake in my slide. You're fine. I'm fine. But okay, so here's what you do. You take the data, you look at your KPIs and goals, and you see, did it do what I thought it will do? Did it respect my hypothesis? Did it increase my average watch time by 50%? If it's green, if it's yes, then you put it in your best practices for the future. If it didn't, then you put it in your non-best practices, whatever, right? In the archive. And if you do this, how many people have marketing agencies over here? Okay. How many people have like more clients or accounts that they're managing? How many people have one account, like one core thing that they're managing? How many people are not going to raise their hand whenever I do? So if you look at this, with time, you're going to develop specific best practices for clients. And what you can do, the same way that the presentation yesterday was talking about website optimization, is you can cross the learning experiences and you can cross the things that work. If something worked here, then you can take it and put it somewhere else. And you can try it. It's an experiment there. And you can see if it works. Okay? So you take the things, the result that you have, and you add it to best practices, or you add it to non-best practices. And that's where you start from in the next cycle, right? And the other thing that you do is you update your processes, you update your backlog of ideas, of experiments, and why is this slide so long? I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So I'm almost done. I'm at like 2 minutes, and then we're going to do questions. Some hypotheses that you guys can take. Now you can see that if I would have started with tactics, that would not have been as useful. Did that whole process make sense? Is that something you guys can do and can take away and you actually use? Okay. And here's what happens. You have ideas and goals. You add them to your marketing machine, which is this process that you need to refine. And if you actually want to do this well, get a data scientist and just say, Uber, experimentation platform. They're going to know what to do. You know, so just like all these platforms like Uber and especially product companies have very good experimentation frameworks that they use for fast experimentation on the platform. So you just take the same mentality and you add it to marketing. So if you get a data scientist, give them like a month, they'll figure it out. And they'll give you like statistical significance and all the other things that are important, but I could not tackle them here. So okay, you can see now that if you have this marketing machine that you're using, then it's all a matter of adding goals and ideas, and outcomes will happen. And it's not a matter of the ideas that you have, it's a matter of setting the right goals or the best goals that you have, that you can, and then outcomes will happen, and improving the system is the thing that you need to focus on. And ideas are easy. This is like 100% cliche. But ideas are very easy. Like, try Messenger. Do this thing with like contests and have people sign up on Messenger with a comment and they go here. But what do you do with that? How do you add that to your strategy? It's not working. I've tried it. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable and you don't grow. Like your progress is like this. And I don't like that. I want something steady and slow that will grow to 10 billion. Okay, so one hypothesis. This is more relevant for this insight has been gathered from like SaaS companies and companies that have a product, but you can use it anywhere. So everybody really focuses on acquisition. How many of you are thinking about acquisition when you're thinking about social media? Please raise your hands. Okay, how many of you are thinking about monetization and retention of your customers? Okay, so this company called Price Intelligently, which is which they help companies structure their pricing. They did some studies, and this is like a data set from 512 companies here, and that's a study from 25,000 blog posts. And they figured out that there was all this attention on acquisition and very little on monetization and retention. And when you looked at the impact, the business impact that they had, whatever 1 unit of effort, $1 you had to invest somewhere, if you invested it into acquisition, you will get 3.3% return. If you invest it into monetization, you'll get 12, and if you invest into retention, you'll get 6. So a really good hypothesis to think about is to get your, if it's not working out for you in the acquisition space, you can take the budget and you can do it better. You can increase your efficiency by switching it to retention and monetization. Does anybody know what I mean by retention and monetization? So monetization, you make more out of the same customers. Retention, you just keep them, okay? So think about campaigns, engagement campaigns, loyalty campaigns, just engaging content for those people and so on. And nobody wants to do this. Well, very few people do this, like percentage of people that do it, but the impact is actually much higher. So if you're not performing on the top funnel side, on the acquisition side, switch your budget to a lower funnel. Yeah, obviously if you have the traffic. If you don't have the traffic to retarget and the clients, that obviously that's not an option. Okay, so that's one hypothesis you can take, and you can do that. You can be like, if I invest in monetization, 50% of my budget, I'm guessing I will get 2 times the return I get on acquisition. And you can try that. Okay, next thing. This is just a simple financial statement of especially the small companies that have VC money. What they're doing is they're betting on the future, they're over-investing in unrealistic financial terms. And it's only a matter of time till they go to zero, right? And if you look at the situation, so if that average purchase frequency, sales, blah, 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 and you can see the only thing that's rising is their cost per acquisition, cost per click, $0.64, $1.33, $1.71. And you can see their LTV to CAC ratio, customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, goes from 2.3 to 0.8. Now, if the only thing changes here, and this is the second hypothesis, if you can take your business and if you increase your frequency of purchases, if you can increase the value of the amount that people buy, which is not really a marketing task per se, but the lines are really blurring. It's not obvious who's in charge of this. Is it the product? Is it the marketing? Is it both? Probably both. So another hypothesis, and another really good hypothesis, and this is, and I'll leave you with this and then we'll do questions for, how much time do we have? Oh no, oh no. Okay, so another hypothesis, and I'll finish quick, is if you want to see what people resonate with on social, look at Netflix. I think they're one of the best examples. They're doing, so their target audience, well, obviously almost everyone here is watching Netflix as well, but like their main core target audience is like the 17-year-old girl, right? And what they had is they didn't have the corporate agency of 39-year-olds manage their account. They have these people that they're speaking is like, this is their personal account and they just woke up. It's like, oh, theory, High School Musical and Riverside exist in the same year as the Teen Boys. They are great graphic. Listen, I'm very good at Microsoft Paint. Don't even try to sass me. Oh, okay. So they're acting like human beings. This is not marketing that they're doing. And if you look at the way sales works, if people sense that you're trying to sell to them, there's a big wall that's coming out. You don't have that. But if people sense that you're just being a normal human being with them, the whole wall drops down and beautiful things happen. So whatever you can do to speak in your target audience, and obviously this depends. If your audience are not 70-year-old girls, don't speak like this. If your audience is finance guys, 49-year-olds, that would be funny. But see how can you take a more human approach to your marketing And don't speak like a marketer and salesperson, speak like a person and act like one. Respond to comments, message people, make a joke if it fits with your brand and everything. And companies are so, well, the conversation I have with brands is like, no, we need to be on brand, we need to be this, let's have the graphics. Nobody cares about your graphics. Nobody cares about your logo being on old pictures. It's, just nobody does, right? It's not, but that's our ego trying to grasp and have safety. Okay, presentation software. Oh, okay, no. I'm gonna give you guys, well, I'm gonna give you guys a link because I don't have it in my slides. Digimarcon. I'm gonna spell it out. bit.ly/Digimarcon slides. And you should go to the PowerPoint presentation. I made an update like 30 minutes ago and I couldn't update it. What? bit.ly, bit.ly. Okay, here's my English spelling. There you go. Digimarcon slides. Okay? Okay, this is my social, but you can just Google it and you'll find everything. And come on, can we do like a couple of questions?
2 minutes.
Okay, that's unfortunate. Was it useful?
Yeah.
Was it useful?
Yeah.
I know it's not the most exciting thing, but that's exactly why people don't do it. That's exactly what people do. I could have been here like, oh, marketing, messenger, 100% increase, open rates. You would have done that for like 2 months and then it wouldn't have worked. Okay. So, no, let's do like this. Let's have 2 questions from the audience because I need to like log in and stuff like that. So let's have like 2 questions from the audience and then we'll go. Are we okay with that? Okay. Yeah, if it doesn't, that's fine too. That's fine too. Yes, sir.
How long do you do your experimentation sprints? Is it like 2 weeks? Is it a week?
So how long should the cycle of experimentation be before you look at it?
Yeah.
Depends, most of the time it's less than 2 weeks. If you have something like a loyalty campaign, obviously that needs to have like a month of going and whatever. Depends, but most of the times that would be as fast as possible. Most of the times you can have a feedback loop in like a day. Like put up an ad, spend $50, you know what's going on. And that's the difference between us and our genes, really. That's why we still crave sugar. Because our feedback loops of evolution, they're like 100,000 years. But feedback loop on Facebook is like 4 hours. Depends on how long they take to approve your ads, which is an issue. Does that help? Okay. Another question? And I'll be here, I'll be outside. And by the way, if it's helpful, I'll be outside for like the next couple of hours at least. And we can do like a free audit of your account and whatever. I would love to help if possible. So there's another question. Okay.
All done?
Thank you so much, guys.